Yes.
Okay, the Single Family Design Board meeting for May 5th has begun. We'll start with a roll call.
Thank you, Chair Lewis. I'll begin with Chair Lewis.
Yes.
Vice Chair Sherry?
Yes.
Board Member Graffiti?
Yes.
Board Member Mosley?
Yes.
And Board Member Richards?
Yes.
We have quorum. Thank you.
Okay, next up is public comment. This is for general public comment.
Thank you, Chair Lewis. At this time, I do not have any speaker slips for in-person public comment. We do not have any participants online, and we did not receive any written correspondence for general public comment, so I will give it back to you.
Okay, next is approval of the full board minutes from April 21st. We just had the one item that had a motion. Did anyone have any comments for that? We'll look at it real quick.
I'll make a motion for approval.
Okay, second.
I'll begin with Board Member Mosley,
Yes.
Board Member Richards,
Yes.
Board Member Graffiti,
Yes.
Vice Chair Sherry,
Yes.
and Chair Lewis.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Next is approval of the minutes from the consent meetings, April 14th and April 21st. So the 14th was Board Member Richards.
Yep.
Would you like to make a motion?
Will motion have these approved?
Second?
All right. I will begin with Board Member Mosley,
Yes.
Board Member Richards,
Yes.
Board Member Graffiti,
Yes.
Vice Chair Sherry,
Yes.
and Chair Lewis.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Next is approval of the minutes from April 21st, which was me. And those are good. Just keep scrolling. Right. Okay, I move to approve the minutes from April 21st consent meeting.
Second.
I'll begin with Board Member Mosley,
Yes.
Board Member Richards,
Yes.
Board Member Graffiti,
Yes.
Vice Chair Sherry, and Chair Lewis.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Next is ratification of the actions taken at the consent calendar for April 28th and May 5th.
Sure. So for April 28th, the items were posted on the full board agenda. So if you'd like to look at that, they are there for reference. For today, item 1 at 1413 Alameda Padre Serra was granted project design approval and final approval. 3013 Lomita Road was continued to 2 weeks to date certain of May 19th. And 1562 La Vista del Oceano was granted final approval.
I'll make a motion to, should we approve?
To ratify.
Ratify the action taken on the consent calendar, May 5th.
Second?
Oh, pardon the interruption. Is it possible to also ratify April 28th?
Yes.
Thank you.
Ready for the vote. Begin with Board Member Mosley,
Yes.
Board Member Richards,
Yes.
Board Member Graffiti,
Yes.
Vice Chair Sherry,
Yes.
and Chair Lewis.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, next we have announcements and any requests for future agenda items and appeals.
No, no continuances or withdrawals or future agenda items. I do know, well, I've heard through the grapevine that some of the hearings for SFDB elections for selecting some new board members have been continued. I don't have the details of the certain dates, but I will go ahead and send an email and let you guys know as soon as possible if there's any upcoming hearing dates. I know it's not certain right now, but I will follow up with more information.
Okay.
Thanks.
Do you know when their term will start?
I do not off
Okay.
the top of my head, no.
Okay, great. Slash end, I think for both. Okay, cool. Okay, our first item is a new item here for concept review, 819 North Aliso Street. Proposal for a one-story, two-bedroom, 1,000 square foot ADU and a 50 square foot storage shed in the front yard with an existing to remain 600 square foot single-family residence. The ADU is under purview of the board because the proposed design does not match the main residence and is proposed in the new front yard. Sorry, proposed in the front yard. No final appealable decision today, so welcome. Do we have any staff comments?
Yes, I just had one staff comment. This project has gone through one round of review through its application completeness cycle. There are some corrections and some design changes that are needed for the project to demonstrate compliance with some of the zoning ordinances. But generally, the style doesn't need to be altered or the massing doesn't need to be altered too much. So staff thought it best to have it come here for conceptual review, even though it's not deemed complete yet. So any comments on the style or the location of the massing would be really helpful. Just general, broad comments, so that when they return, hopefully they can be granted project design approval. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You'll have 15 minutes to present.
Great, thank you. I'm Alex Wyndham, architect on the project, and thanks for reviewing this. So I'll just give you a rundown of the project first.
Oh, Alex, pardon the interruption. Can you turn on your microphone there? Yeah, make sure the light is green. There you go. Thank you.
Okay. So I'm Alex Wyndham, architect on the project. I'll give you a quick rundown. So this is, it's on a 5,000 square foot lot on the east side of Santa Barbara at the bottom of the Riviera, just a couple blocks off of Milpas. And it's in a neighborhood of 1- and 2-story houses that are predominantly, ranch style or mid-century or Spanish style, kind of a mix. And we have the way the lot is, there's a large front yard. The existing house is 660 square feet, and it's set all the way at the back of the property. So here's the aerial view. You can kind of see that's the existing house here, and there's a big empty yard in the front. All the houses on the street are right on the 20-foot setback line, so this is the only lot that doesn't have a building in the front yard there. Let's see. The existing house is, it's a plaster, probably built in the 40s, 50s or so. And it's got a standing seam metal roof, which the owner put on a little bit earlier. So that's the existing site. As we go down, here's a site plan showing the existing house, the large open yard. There's a concrete driveway, and we're proposing to remove a portion of the driveway and leave the rest of the driveway for the ADU to increase the permeability of the site. So this is our site plan. And so a portion of the house is right at the 20-foot setback, but we pulled half of it back, so there's not as much bulk right on close to the sidewalk. We tried to minimize the concrete parking so we really didn't have to pave the whole thing. We're proposing a rain garden in the front yard here, so the water coming off the roof lands through here and kind of goes along these arrows which follow the natural contours of the site. And we have some plantings in the front, some manzanita, which are native and drought resistant. And the plantings that we do in there are also going to try to be all natives and water-wise. So that's a site plan. And here's our floor plan. And it's these ADUs are so small, so the main living area, we combined it all together. So the living, dining, and kitchen area is one big room with a raised ceiling and doors on each end. So it opens out to the outside. So even though it's a small space, it really connects to the outdoors and lets the owners use the back porch and the front porch as part of the living area. And then the lower part of the building is over here, which has the bedrooms and the bathroom, and a little storage spine down the middle. Now, if we go to the elevations, so this is the elevation facing Aliso Street. And we've got, the height is about 17.6 off of grade. And so the taller portion is going to be a plaster, like a smooth plaster in a light color. The lower portion, we're proposing to do a shiplapped cedar siding, and with a standing seam metal roof as well, and metal-clad wood windows. These elevations kind of give you an idea of the height of the existing residence and what we're proposing. It's about 3'6" higher than the existing residence, and under the 18 feet, which is our max, I think. So you can see it in these. And in this one, I've also got, you can see the manzanita plantings in the front to hide the house from the street a little bit. There's also a big street tree right here. So when you're across the street looking at it, you won't be able to see most of the building. So there are my elevations. This is a little bit of a comparison between the two. The existing is on the right and the proposed on the left, with a couple of renderings at the bottom. And here's a section kind of showing that larger space with the high ceilings, with clear story windows at the tops as well to let light in, so it feels like a very light space. So I'll just jump forward to materials down here. Then I've got a couple studies of the neighborhood we did. So yeah, so we're proposing I'll start on the right here, kind of a standing seam metal roof with a kind of a smooth exterior plaster in a whitish color. And I think we're proposing to paint the existing house a similar color. And then we have the cedar, the exterior cedar, which we're looking to do a shosugiban, which is the charred cedar. For the front yard, we're looking to do like a dry stack Santa Barbara sandstone wall with sandstone pavers and native plantings and the rain garden as well. There are some exterior lighting, which are going to be dark sky safe and downward facing and no glare. Yeah, so those are the materials. And then I wanted to show you a couple studies we did just looking at the surrounding houses, as well as other buildings in the neighborhood that are of similar style. Because I know that's one of the elements we want to look at. So this is 819 right here. And I did 2 lines, one at ground level and one at the top of the roof. I'll zoom in a little bit so you can kind of see them. And so as we go like down the street, this one you can't really see, it's a single story. 2 doors down is this 2-story with an attic house, which is actually, I think it's about 10 feet off of the property line, so it's pretty close. The next one down is this one, which is on a slope. It's high here and lower in the front. Going the other direction. This is a single story, but these all have attics, so they're a fair bit higher. Same with this one. It's on a plinth, like a 4-foot plinth with the 8-foot ceilings and then an attic above it. This is, here's another one, which is 2 stories. This one's about 5 feet off of the actual street, so it's very close to the street, 2 stories with an attic. That one's a little lower. Directly across the street, we've got a 2-story with a balcony, I think, Spanish-ish style. And then down the street are a couple that are lower and kind of 50s style. So that gives an idea of the streetscape. I also drove around and kind of looked at other buildings that were of a similar style to what we're proposing. So E here is A19 Alisos, the project site, and then A, B, C, and D are around here. So they're all pretty close, within a few blocks, a couple blocks. So here, this one, it's got the exterior wood siding with these tall windows that go right up to the roof and these large overhangs, kind of a mid-century style. This one over here is a similar style with the wood cladding and then the large overhangs and the large windows. This is another one that's a couple blocks away. It's got the pitched roof. It's a combination of plaster and wood siding with some cement board with the tall windows as well. And this is another one. It's a few blocks away, but it's all plaster, but it's got the pitched roofs and the large windows. And so then, what we're proposing is the larger space has the plaster. The shorter side has the wood cladding. We've got the larger eaves to provide shading and give some character to the building. They're a little bit too long. One of the comments was we need to make them a little shorter. But so that's about where we are right now in the design. So I'd love to get comments about bulk and scale and style.
Perfect. We'll move to public comment then.
Thank you, Chair Lewis. At this time, I do not have any speaker slips for in-person public comment. We do not have any participants online, and we didn't receive any written correspondence for this item, so I'll give it back to you.
Okay. We will move to questions from the board. Anybody want to start?
Minor questions, just to clarify. Thank you for your presentation.
Sure.
On the render that we're looking at, all the wood claddings are horizontal, but on the elevations, some are vertical, some are horizontal. Just wanted to clarify which one is the end result.
So some are vertical and some are horizontal. So the thought of that, you can see in this rendering.
Okay, I was looking at the cover sheet render. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Got
in this one, there's the spine that runs through the middle, and that one has horizontal, and then the bedrooms and the bathroom are vertical.
Vertical.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You
And
can see it a bit more in this rendering.
okay, and can you show us on the site plan? There's the existing 3, I believe it's a 24-inch diameter on, it will be on one side, I'm not sure it's east or west. close to the proposed building. I want to see the relationship, how far it is to the proposed building. I think
So
you
this
have
one?
like keynoted as number 2, that round.
This one here.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's an existing tree.
Okay.
It's a, I think I'm not sure the species, it's a cypress maybe, a type of cypress. And right now we're proposing to remove it.
To remove?
Yeah.
Okay, so those are all my questions.
Okay. Board Member Graffiti?
Can you just quickly go over there? I think it says there's a shed in the front yard, what the location of where that is and what that looks like.
On the new design?
Yeah.
On the proposed design? Yeah. Yeah, so that is actually, which we're actually going to remove.
Oh.
So on that is, yeah, so that was right here on this, there was a little shed, kind of this protruded out, and it was a storage area.
Okay.
So we've pulled that back.
Okay.
And we don't have that anymore.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then just to confirm, I think you mentioned this, your plan or your intent is to paint the existing residence the same stucco color as the proposed ADU.
Yeah, exactly.
And can you go over, I know it's a shade of white. Have you guys thought about what color or anything like that
We
yet?
haven't gotten the exact
Okay.
color, but it would be a light, lightish white. Yeah.
And then last thing, I just saw in the rendering, can you speak to, it looks like there's part of a fence or wall behind the sandstone wall with horizontal woods. Yeah.
This one, yeah. So in this proposal, we had a sliding gate that would slide across the driveway.
Got it.
I think we're going to we're going to remove that because it is right on the sidewalk. So if we can't do that, yeah, we'll probably not have that and just not have a gate at all there.
Okay. I think that's it for me. Thanks.
Okay.
Any other questions?
One question is the height again on the plate height on the lower level, because it looked like you were drawing your plate height lower than the wall, maybe. If you could just zoom in on the
Yeah.
elevation that
on
has
an
the plate heights on it.
elevation. Yeah, let's see.
The south elevation might be good.
Yeah. So if we're on this one. Get in there. So I've got a 9-foot plate on the lower side here. And then, and
There was
that's
another drawing, maybe it was the south elevation drawing?
south
Was throwing
elevation.
me off.
This one maybe?
That one, not, it was
Let's see the other
long
elevations.
one.
Oh, the long elevations, yeah.
That
Let's
one,
see. Yeah, this one maybe.
Yeah,
Is this the one you're looking at?
Because the plate height looked lower.
Yeah, you might be right there. Let's see, where is that connecting?
You see what I mean?
Because they're slightly different between your left and
Yes,
right.
yeah, the left and right side
Yeah.
have different plate heights. This one I think may need to be a little bit higher. I think you're
Yeah,
correct.
that was what was throwing
I
me,
think you're
exactly
right.
where your cursor is.
Yep.
So it's,
Yeah.
is that the correct? You're going to raise it up to above 9.3, 9?
Yes, so
The lower level plate is actually going to be at, what's that number?
So it'll be at, let's see, on this section, you might be able to see it a little better.
So on the wood side, it'll be 9, and then on the plaster side,
So like this. So in the section, you can see, I actually have it here. Yeah, so that elevation is incorrect on that other
That's what I
drawing.
thought.
It should be this. It should be 11, 1.5.
11 and a half on the north. I'm kind of calling the street west, but you're saying the street is not west. You're saying the street is.
The street is, yeah, it's kind of
Northish.
And so,
northeastish.
so if I'm looking at this elevation and that's the street, what elevation is that you're calling it?
That is east.
East.
Yeah.
So, okay, so the north elevation, you're showing 9. But if you go to the north actual elevation,
Let's see, let's go there. Here. This is our
Here.
north, that's our south.
that's why I'm.
I think it's just
Kinda
renamed. I think they're the site plan shows the north arrow different than the elevation.
I'm just trying to look at the driveway. Can we look at the driveway
Yeah.
elevation? Because that's the elevation that I think you said had a 9-foot plate. And then the other side, across from the driveway, had a 11-foot plate or something and change. But the driveway elevation, what's that plate height?
That plate height, yeah. So this is the view, if you're standing on the sidewalk looking at the building,
So that
this
says
is your
it's got a
view.
9-foot plate.
On the
the right
right-hand
side.
side,
The right side.
by the
So
driveway.
So can we go to
Correct.
that elevation, which would be the east elevation?
Yes. So if we're going here, so that is this elevation here on the bottom.
See, I'm having a hard time
So this-
understanding. I think the labels are wrong.
The labels are wrong, correct?
So,
Yes.
so can I,
So-
so that's
so on-
the elevation that.
On
yeah.
this elevation, 9
supposed to be
feet should be
9
about
feet.
here. Yeah, that should be 9 feet.
Okay.
And I don't
Is that
have
the
it.
elevation? Or is that another drawing? Because it doesn't say elevation on that drawing.
This
It
is
says
the
west
elevation.
It
elevation.
does?
Yeah,
Oh, there it is.
so there we go.
So that's supposed to be 9. Okay.
Yep, so
Um,
if I do yeah,
Sorry
this is 9
to
feet.
belabor
right?
that.
No,
And
no, thank you.
then you were not asking for a minor zoning exception for the height of the hedge at the front. You're going to keep it at 42? You want to keep it at 42?
Yeah, we're going to keep it, it'll be at 42.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you don't want to make it higher? You don't want more privacy?
No.
Okay. No questions more.
Okay. Board Member Richards?
Yeah, is there any landscaping proposed in the front yard?
Yeah, so we're proposing to do some manzanita trees in the front, right on the, at the front, and then doing the rain garden. We don't have a landscape plan yet, but that's the idea of what we're looking for.
I guess the other question I had is, what's the rhythm kind of based on for these exposed beams? Because it seems like it changes partway through.
It does. It changes partway through, and it's partly to have a consistent, getting it to fit, getting the length to fit in the site, and to get our square footages right. We it is basically to keep our window widths the same, consistent across here, and then this ends up being a shear wall there. So it kind of wanted to keep the window widths the same, and then where the shear wall is, that had to be a little bit wider. So we're able to have the beams a little bit further apart.
And then, I guess my other question is, so what's the plaster texture finish for the existing main residence
Yeah, so we're thinking of doing like a smooth.
to match?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I guess my last question is, so if we go to the opposite elevator, the east elevation,
Yeah.
the head height for these low windows, what is that?
For these,
Yeah.
right now, those are at, what is my height on those? I think it's like, I think it's 6 feet. I think I'm at 6 feet for the top. Is that right? Yeah. And right opposite those, so on the property line, there's a plaster wall. There's a wall plaster that's 7.5 feet tall or so between us and the neighbor. So those would all be looking out right onto that wall.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's all my questions.
Okay.
All right.
You had mentioned potentially adjusting the overhang at the front
Yeah.
yard. So what is it right now, and what are you thinking about adjusting it to?
So right now it's 5 feet an overhang here, and we're thinking of pulling it back. I think they're saying to bring it down to 2 feet or 3 feet, 3 feet max. Yeah, so it would come to about there instead because it's over the setback line.
So then, and that's about what you have as it wraps, right?
It is.
Okay.
That's
cool.
what we
So
have
then
around.
There'd be a consistent
So it
around.
would be 3
Okay.
feet all the way around. Yeah.
Okay, we'll move to comments.
I
from the-
actually just
oh,
have one
yes,
more
mhm.
question.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at the street view with that cypress tree that you mentioned. Are you planning on replacing or thinking about other types of vegetation or screening along that fence line? Looking from the street, it's like a very mature buffer
It's a-
between the properties. So
It is, yeah, it's a large tree. At the moment, we're not. The owner's kind of worried about fire fire danger, and the tree falling on the house. But yeah, we'd be open to suggestions.
It's interesting because it's quite high. I don't know how much it actually would screen, the foliage is so
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
not
not-
even thinking for screening. I'm just thinking once that's gone,
What other
just
kind
the
of
where
mature-
that it
yeah.
kind, or just how it's aesthetically affecting that street, and just kind of looking around in the areas where you don't have it. Yeah, I mean, I understand why you'd want to remove it, but just,
Yeah.
Is that palm tree on your property or it's your neighbor? The one on the
Let's see, which one?
right side, like opposite?
Is it on the?
Oh, it's showing up on our Google, but it's not showing up in the photo, so maybe it's already gone.
Oh, okay. Was
It's
it on,
between the driveways on the right-hand side.
on this? On,
No.
Oh, on
Yeah,
this
there you go.
side. I don't remember seeing a palm tree there. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that one in the back.
Yeah.
That may have been removed.
Okay.
Yeah, that may have been removed.
Okay. All right, did you have any other questions? Okay, we'll move to comments. Who would like to start us? Okay, I'll start. I think it's, it's interesting that it's the ADU, but it's really quite now the main house on the property, and then you'd have the existing one be the ADU, and I think it makes sense that the one in the front be a little bit larger than the one in the back, and so I think from a scale standpoint, I'm in support of it. I think I appreciate the comparison in the neighborhood of heights, and even I think there's enough variety of styles in the neighborhood that I think that this would work and be appropriate. I was a little hesitant at first with the dark of the wood, but I'm not opposed to it, and I like that it's on the smaller side where the plaster is larger. I think having the 3-foot overhang will be nice, and it'll be interesting for us to take a look at your other screening element there with it, because right now it looks like it is close to aligning a little bit with the overhang, and so what does that become as the roof steps back? And then I think one of the things to study will be the proportion of plaster to window. There's some inconsistencies of it being kind of thick along the roof side, but then not on the right, and then a little bit on the other sides, and so I think that could be worth studying a little bit, but I like the garden space in the front. I like that the screening gate between the front property, matches the front residence. And I think painting the rear residence will help connect them a little bit, but it's also kind of okay if they're two separate things. They feel like two different properties almost. Anybody else? Comments?
Yeah, I can support the contemporary home as well. I mean, there's not a lot of contemporary homes in this neighborhood, but it is an area in transition, and I like the architecture. I think that as you're facing the house from the street, the left-hand side, I think those windows at 6 feet are, I mean, you decide, they look a little odd from a proportion standpoint, but if you don't really, if you want to look out at a wall, if you don't want to really look out and you have to bend over, then if that's what they want, then that's what they're going to get probably. So, and then the plate, my biggest thing is the proportion. If you look at the lower right-hand rendering and you see those people, that's a really good example of how the plate height, being so high for such a narrow room on the inside, an 11-foot plate in that really small room is going to feel, I don't want to offend you, but a little Alice in Wonderland, kind of the proportion is going to look really tall. So, and from the outside, that large overhang and that plate height, I don't know, it just seems a little bit like it could be worked on. And if it's what you want, then, I'm okay based on the rest of the neighborhood and kind of the other, there's 2 stories and in the other neighborhood. It's just something that when you look at the size of the people and then you look at those plate heights, it looks a little bit high. I'm not sure what the end dimension of those beam extensions is, but they almost look like horns. And I think it might look better if you had a little less of an angle on those beam extensions from just if you want it to be more of a traditional mid-century and you don't want to create your own style, then you might want to look at maybe a little less of an angle on those beam extensions. I think it might look more elegant. Those are just some
Great.
just thoughts.
Yeah.
But I like the structure. I like the house.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we are planning the ends of those come to a point, but we're planning on having a thickness there. It's just the software couldn't do it.
Okay.
And the owners are all very tall, so hopefully that'll make the space feel better for them.
Could scale up your scale figures.
Yeah, maybe so.
The people are not drawn tall, so.
Yeah.
Board Member Graffiti?
Yeah, I think it's a really cool project. I mean, it's definitely a departure from other architectural styles in the neighborhood, but I don't think this is a neighborhood where you need to try to match that too much, and there is enough of an eclectic architectural style. I think it's going to be, very unique. I like the ideas with landscaping and the native plants and manzanitas. I think that'll go really well with the siding. I agree with Vice Chair Sherry on the plate heights, that I think the project would be a better project if you studied those and potentially brought them down. I do think looking at other houses on the street further up, especially some of the 2-story houses that are right on the easement or maybe even in front of it, are very like boxy and higher plate heights to a certain degree. So I can find it, like I would be able to approve it as is, but I think it would be better if you studied those. And I completely understand some of the concerns about the tree. I do think it is a kind of a popular opinion right now of everyone's for fire's sake and all of that. But I also think it's going to be really sad if everyone is just removing their trees. And I think if you look across the street and down the street in some of the areas where there aren't any mature trees, you see a stark contrast. And I would study, if you are going to remove that, maybe another location on the site or between the ADU and the house where you could find something new, maybe a different species to replant. And I want to also restudy our guidelines and all of that just to make sure I'm staying in scope there. But overall, I think it's a great project, great improvement, and I'm glad you're going to be painting the back house to match. I think that will coordinate better, and excited to see how this develops.
Great.
I agree with all the comments that were made. I think it's a new, really nice addition to the neighborhood, and I'm okay with the Balkan scale and the style, and I think it's going to start a new move in the neighborhood, and which will be nice to see upgrades because there are a lot of like older 40s and 50s houses there. I like that the part of this house is like pretty dark, and I think like it's makes it more humble and muted into the proposed landscape in front of it. And the one thing that to me, and Vice Chair Sherry brought it up, the rafters, it's a little bit just too bold. And I think like once you look at this, it's a pretty contemporary modern house when you're walking on the street, but I think the first thing you'll notice is just the rafters. And first thing is like, how do you detail that? Because like the space between the windows, the clear story windows, and the rafters and the plaster is too narrow. And it could be like other architectural solutions of like bringing the windows a little bit the head of the window lower, where that tip point of like the rectangular window on the other side ends, and it can be like a more traditional clear story, contemporary modern windows. That's a solution, and you're an architect, you'll find other solutions. But just looking at this, it's just too bold, and it's just contrast to the whole muted palette of the architecture there. And regarding the tree, Yeah, like just looking at this render, seeing it on the background, it's part of the neighborhood now, and I totally understand that the root of that mature tree can cause like issues for the foundation and everything, but it would be really nice if, especially that side, I was looking at Google Earth, the other side is pretty dense hedges with the neighbor, but this side, which is, I think, like the neighbor to the left of the view that we're looking, 815, that plaster wall, it's not that much, like, it doesn't have that much greenery. And if there's enough, I don't know if like with the widths of the circulation that you need there, if there's possibilities that you can have additional landscape there, maybe there's a solution that those windows is not, the head height is not 6 feet as well, with the tall clients.
Yeah.
And I think that was all my comments. And there is one other thing on the side elevation. I saw that there are a couple of, like on the west and east, there are water heaters, there are Tesla charger. And I know that you don't have a landscape plan already, but do you think that you will have enough space to propose like a little bit? I know that this side, the right side of the image, we have hedges on the neighbor, but like the other side we don't have.
On this side, you mean?
Yes.
On the back,
and,
yeah.
Is there any way we can screen that?
Yeah, it's, so as you go along there, right about here, on the drawing, it goes to a 7.5-foot wall.
Okay.
And that goes all the way to the back of the property. So as far as
like already-
screening, it's very well
So when you're
screened.
standing there, you don't see windows of the neighbor? In that,
No.
okay.
No.
I think that's all my comments. I think it's a really nice project, and it will be a really nice improvement in the neighborhood, and we're excited to see it.
Great. Thank
Oh.
you.
Board Member Richards?
Sure, yeah. I can appreciate the reduction of that front overhang. I think it's going to help bring down the scale of the house so it doesn't feel as looming from the street. I do think that, yeah, having manzanita is going to be important, having some screening there, because it is a straight shot house and you're kind of a big picture window to the street. So I think your clients are going to want some privacy from just people walking by. And then I would encourage you to study potentially trying to make the spacing for all of those beams a consistent depth. And I think it'll help just that space feel uniform and not like you've got this weird gap in the end.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think it's a very attractive project and looking forward to see it.
Great, thank you.
So from the board, do we think that
Oh,
this project could go?
Sorry, I just wanted to jump in. I know there's some questions about like the tree replacement
Oh, yes.
standards from some of the board members. I'm hearing it come up about 3 times. So I wanted to let you guys know, remind you for the design guidelines and meeting procedures in the yellow book, in section 3 for tree and vegetation preservation, there are some standards for replacement that the board can use. So the standard that we have is trees 4 inches in diameter or greater at 4 feet 6 inches above grade in height shall be replaced on a site on a minimum of a 1-to-1 basis. For native trees or trees that are triggering the hillside vegetation removal permits, it's more than that, being that I believe the cypress is a non-native tree, correct? We'll have to work
Yeah.
that out through the next plan review cycle, but a 1-to-1 replacement is usually suitable, and the board is completely within their purview of requesting that somewhere on the property if wanted. So, yeah.
Okay, would the board like to see this back to the full board or consent? Any comments?
I'd like to see it again.
Okay. Okay, I move to continue this project indefinitely to the full board with the following comments. That the board generally supports the size, bulk, and scale of the project. Board would like to see reduction in the front overhang, mentioned at the meeting at approximately 3 feet. The board recognizes the neighborhood has a variety of styles and finds the style of the proposed ADU to be appropriate to the neighborhood. Board recommends studying the 11-foot plate height on the left-hand side of the front elevation. The board would like to see details of the rafter edges, and recommends that they are appropriate to mid-century design, consistent with the home, and recommends consistent spacing on the exterior for the beams. The board appreciates native plantings in the front yard and the screening from the street. Board would like to see a replacement for the removal of the specimen tree somewhere on the property. Board recommends studying the proportions of the window to the plaster and the proportions of the clear story windows.
I was just going to ask if you're open on your motion specifying, I think, at least for me, I would be open to seeing other tree varieties proposed and not just a one-to-one of the current tree, but something that could be of this certain mature size.
Correct.
Okay, I don't know if
I
you
agree.
stated that.
I think I said one-to-one, but yes, a replacement for the specimen tree of 4-inch or greater maturity.
Yeah, I believe
what
it's,
level?
I believe technically it's not a specimen tree. It's just a cypress tree. So it's.
Oh, currently?
Yeah,
Oh,
currently.
thank you.
It's a
Okay.
current tree. So I just want to make sure we're clarified on
helpful.
that. So
Okay.
it's not a specimen tree. I would say in your motion to refer to it just as a cypress tree.
Okay.
Since.
Are we sure, well, it's not a native tree, but it might be considered specimen given the height.
Given the size of it, I think it might be.
I will have to research that. I think that for now, just to avoid any confusion with
Okay.
the word specimen in the design
So
guidelines.
if we could change the comment to say, with the removal of the large tree on the site, provide another mature tree somewhere on the property.
I'll second the motion, and under discussion, you had two separate motion items, one for the plate and one for the overhang, but I wanted to clarify that my concern about the front overhang was relative to the plate height. So if we could combine those two items and say.
Oh, they're kind of, well, so the overhang is this front projection, which
Right.
they had already mentioned they're going to push back 2-3
Oh, okay.
feet, and I just wanted to make sure that was in the motion.
Yeah, because I didn't have, just as a point of clarification, the reason that I had an issue with that large overhang was because of the height. If the plate were lowered, if both plates were lowered and it was a much more conventional proportion, I might not have the same
So I think
opinion
they're
about
running into
that.
zoning issues with that regardless.
Oh, they
so
are?
it needs to be
Okay, okay.
updated, yeah.
Okay,
So do
so-
you have an issue with the plate height then regardless?
You already mentioned that. So
Correct.
you already covered that. It's the plate heights that I think need to be studied. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. I'll begin with Board Member Mosley,
Yes.
Board Member Richards,
Yes.
Board Member Graffiti,
Yes.
Vice Chair Sherry,
Yes.
and Chair Lewis.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
All right.
Great.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Okay, our next item is, right on time, look at us. New item here for one-time pre-application consultation. This is 967 Garcia Road, proposal to remodel an existing 2,202 square foot two-story home with an attached 231 square foot garage with new roof, walls, windows, and siding. A modification is proposed for additions to the first and second stories within the front setback. Proposal for a new 400 square foot detached garage, 322 square foot cabana, and a new 476 square foot third story. The total proposed 3,419 square feet on a 14,000 374 square foot lot is 80% of the maximum required floor area ratio. No final appealable decision will take place today. They request comments regarding the front setback modification. Okay, any staff comments for this item?
Yes, so I just wanted to point attention that this is just a one-time pre-application consultation. So we still haven't received an official submittal of the planning case. And so for those members in the audience, I know some folks in the neighborhood were interested when this project came up. Just want to let you know you can fill out, if you wish to make public comment, fill out your forms and bring them up to me. And so when that time comes, we'll call you up. And for this one-time pre-application consultation, staff has not reviewed this for any zoning compliance whatsoever. The applicants have studied our code and have provided enough information for them to request some modification feedback, but staff hasn't actually reviewed it and seen how much of a request that is. But any helpful comments for the design of the project with what's being shown within the front setbacks will help the applicant move forward when they fully submit. So thank you.
Okay, perfect. You'll have 15 minutes. If you can, make sure your microphones are on and each state your name for the record at the beginning.
Adam Graham, owner, contractor, and the designer.
Hi, I'm Risa Hong. I'm also the designer.
Nicole Bergiel, agent.
We're here to present for major remodel, minor addition at 967 Garcia. Most of the house, as it is currently sits, is in its original 1946 state of construction. In-wall electrical, plumbing, and waste lines are all original. The heater is in the original sump. It's a gravity heater in the middle of the house. So at this point in time, it is far overdue for some upgrading. The garage was converted the year following the original construction. So if you look at the floor plan, there's a sort of an in-law bedroom and ensuite. So at the moment, the garage is basically unusable unless you have a very short and narrow vehicle. There was a minor remodel addition in 1972, which added the terrace, added to the back of the living room. There is a dubiously permitted room underneath the terrace, and they did a minor kitchen remodel. And so that's it for permit history on the home. There is an apartment under the house that is a mix of original, like the fixtures and electrical, plumbing and whatnot. The bathroom's original, and it had this sort of brought in to be doubled in size when the upstairs terrace was permitted. But our intent is to convert that existing space into a special ADU. You can see the finished stand-up basement storage. That is all unconditioned space, and I would like to capture that within the foundation and add conditioned space in the center section and wine cellar, storage, whatever. Not really do much, but fix up the other side. There's quite a bit of both standing water, even now, and moisture underneath the home. So major kind of foundation waterproofing. There's quite a bit of work to happen underneath the house. But the intent is to basically use the existing footprint and in fact reduce it in size on the west elevation, because we need a driveway to get to a garage, because as it is, the existing garage is not code compliant. Personally, don't give to anything about having a garage or not, but I know it's code compliant, so we're proposing putting the garage towards the bottom of the property with a pool cabana. And not a spectacular architectural piece of work in that garage. I'm looking at, 8-foot plates and probably a flat roof. My original design concepts, it was a green roof, but I know because of fire, whatever, fire zoning, we can't do the green roofs on the, any of the additions, which is unfortunate, but anyway, there's nothing spectacular about the height of those lower buildings. It's just to get the garage in a permitted state. We are proposing, like I said, a fairly major remodel with an addition of a breakfast nook off of the kitchen. There's some nice views at that part of the house. Gives a little bit of privacy to that balcony or that outdoor terrace off the back of the kitchen. Like to do the conversion of the lower apartment into a special ADU. Like to upgrade all of the mechanical, plumbing and electrical systems to the house, insulate it. The major big ticket items that the neighborhood would be aware of are the new roof profile and new roof material. It's very similar to the last project you looked at. Standing seam roof with a light gray cool roof color. We'll have that as part of our presentation, the color board. There we go. So fairly, not a darker brown, but a lighter brown gray taupey roof. The addition of the new 20 by 20 garage with a small pool cabana at the bottom of the property. Finishes, Lisa, go back one. The finishes are off-white plaster, bronze tone cladding to the sashes. I would intend to use a Fleetwood window and door group. And some vertical sandstone. Would you show the front elevation? Just some vertical sandstone panels just to offset the plaster a little bit. The house, we'll get pictures of the house now. The house right now was skim coat stucco just prior to sale. So it's very, very vanilla. And not a lot going on, there it is, stylistically. It's basically a monotone paint scheme, and the picture here does belie a little bit of the over height roof. It's an actual 8-foot profile from the eave to the ridge. Looks a little bit to me like an old fast food restaurant, and I would like to eliminate most of that mass. So can we look at, there we go. Do we have one that compares the, the existing to the proposed? There we go. Okay. So the last bit of the proposed project is to add this street view second story master suite. The issue, I guess, that we have right now with the house is that the majority of homes on Garcia are about the same distance from the curb to the front of the homes. So depending on how your front yard setback easements are placed on the property, our project has a good chunk of front yard setbacks. Actually, the house is built within it, and you can see the property line and street improvements. There's no sidewalks, there's no off-street parking. Garcia is kind of a unique street in that it's a bit, I wouldn't say it's dangerous, but it's it doesn't really allow for a lot of pedestrian travel, bicycles, et cetera, and there's certainly no off-street parking. So this house, unfortunately, in its original position is somewhat handicapped, if you will, by its proximity to the street, which is really no different than the neighboring homes are. I'm calling the residential style maybe a Santa Barbara contemporary. So it's fairly similar to a lot of the other homes in the neighborhood. We did quite an extensive neighborhood survey to just see what was out there as far as second story and style of architecture. So, Risa, just hold on a second. You can see in this grouping of photos, there are lots of two-story elements in the neighborhood, some quite high from curbside, and some like ours, we're low on the street and higher in the backyard because we do have a property that does slope on the downhill side of Garcia. So the upper picture of 1109 Garcia is a fairly similar roof and color scheme, but my intent is instead of the white clad single light windows to do the bronze tone The house next door, 1119, that's right up on the corner of Garcia and Alameda Padre Cerra's, got the same bronze tone sashes. The house at the bottom of Garcia, right on Milpas, is that really cool, a little bit further than I'd want to go with a modern structure, but actually really, when they were building it, was really quite impressed with the architecture of the 906. Let's go to the next one. So you can see there's a lot of different styles. You've got Dutch colonials, there's Tudors, it's kind of all over the place in the neighborhood. And as you guys pointed out with the last applicant, it is a lot of these 40s and 50s homes are starting to get remodeled and renovated. So this is another grouping of homes and on Roble Lane. Again, the color schemes are fairly similar, mix of the sandstone, the lighter plaster, the darker clad sashes on the roof, or sorry, on the windows, and the standing seam metal roof. To address the FAR calcs, again, I'm very much interested. Ooh, Risa, go back to the footprint. Just 3 down. So the footprint is important to me as a builder to try to work with as much of what's there as possible, and the vast majority of the interior of the home, the 3 original bedrooms, the living space, the kitchen, and what was the garage, I'd just like to convert into a family room. So basically the main floor and the bottom floor rooms would stay the same. The window penetrations, the door locations, the lines of sight, everything that's in the existing house right now, we're not intending to change anything. So neighbor concerns about window and door placement on the main floor, and nothing really needs to change. It's all I think fine as is. The intent with the second story primary suite was to capture the water views only, and the other windows represent just clear story opportunities to get more natural light into those spaces. But I'm not trying to open up sight lines into neighbors across the street, the neighbor to the east, nor the neighbor to the west. We are looking literally over the backyard of the neighbor below us and over the house of the neighbor down the street from them. So our views are literally over the roof line of neighbors down the street from us. So again, we're south side of the street, but as Garcia winds down, it's quite steep. So I was very sensitive to try not to, create privacy issues for me when we're in the house and the neighbor is looking back up at us. Let's see. No, I just wanted to point out that we are up to 80% FAR, but 2/3 of that added square footage is in the conversion of the downstairs basement into habitable space and the garage and the cabana. So the majority of the reason we're coming up in FAR is to fulfill the required garage, the cabana, and then the space underneath the house. We're reducing the east side of the house by about 75 square feet. So right now, the garage is close enough to the property line that it would prevent a compliant driveway width. So I need to cut the house back down the 75 square feet, and then we are adding 475 square feet into that second story element from the street elevation. Sure. Yeah, the intent with the roof was really to open up the second story to better views for the neighborhood. So
Yeah, I just want to point out the gray hatched is the existing roof, so that would all be going away, and there's actually quite a reduction in roof height on that east side, I guess. And then you see the second story, or I guess it's third story from the back of the house addition on the other side, but also a reduction in the floor area on that west side to accommodate the driveway.
okay, so and then sort of the reason we're here is to look at the amount of second story area that would be in the front yard setback, so that we'd be pulling a mod. There are two, I guess, in my mind, two general philosophies with this master suite. You can see the closet and the bathroom exist entirely in the front yard setback. If the square footage or if the mass was slid back on the structure, I would, one, be adding to the footprint of the entirety of the house in order to support that, which, again, is not undoable. But then it begins to shift the mass back to where the uphill neighbor would potentially be impacted in their sight lines to the water. So if it's towards the street, the intent is to avoid the uphill neighbor's sight line to the water. If it's pushed back, then it potentially does impede a little bit of their direct sight line. So it's kind of like, I don't like it in the setback either. Mods are not easy to get. They're not free. It also doesn't set necessarily the best precedents, in my opinion, for other homes in the neighborhood. But I don't want to say this is a damned if you do and damned if you don't situation, but there are other alternatives, but I'm not sure from a design and a usable standpoint that they're better than just having the existing front plane of the house stay the front plane of the house. So it's not like this is the only design and we're dead set on this and only this. But I really find that master suite view, extra light, it really would add quite a bit to me of value, interest, and it would improve the structure quite a bit. And I just do not like the existing roof line. So one way or the other, the 8-foot roof's coming off. So it should be an improvement to the neighborhood no matter what we do, I hope. That's what we've got.
All right, thank you. We will move to public comment.
Thank you, Chair Lewis. So at this time, I do have 4 speaker slips for in-person public comment. We'll start with Connie Barcliff, followed by Josh Snyden, Kevin Sheridan, and then Catherine Sheridan. You may come up to the podium right now. The light should be on for you to speak, and you'll have 2 minutes.
Hi, thank you for your time.
If you
My
don't
name is
mind
Connie
stating,
Barcliff.
thank you, your name, and also if you're a neighbor, the address of your residence.
I live at 970 Garcia Road. I live directly across the house, across the street from the house. I have lived in the house that I own for 39 years on Garcia. I bought my house in 1986. I'm only the second owner of that property, and our house was built in 1931. I sent an email to the board with my comments, and my concerns are, first of all, the plans, as they're stated, it says that it's a remodel of an existing 2,202 square foot home. But my question is why is this project considered or classified as a remodel when, according to the city's substantial redevelopment information and affidavit, this project size and scope, as stated on the plans, clearly meets the criteria of a redevelopment and not a remodel. And the reason for that question is because if the project is in fact classified as a substantial redevelopment, then the project would have to build to the current city codes to include a 30-foot setback. And clearly the third floor addition of this project is being built over 28% in encroachment space. So I just wanted clarification on that. I would also like some clarification from the board or from you people on how you've calculated this FAR calculations and how they were done for the projects, because I really don't understand it, going over the plans. From Madio Road to the hairpin turn, we are all single-story houses. We're not double-story houses. And, some of the houses that you showed on the screen, they're up above us.
Thank you, ma'am.
They're,
You're out of time, but if you want to very quickly say your last comment.
okay. The houses that you showed, they're all different sizes. It's a historic neighborhood. Garcia Heights has been there since the early 1920s. That's why there's no sidewalks. That's the charm of the neighborhood. And really our intention as neighbors is to keep that charm. We don't want to see that go away. And lastly, we really are opposed to what happened on the Mesa happening on Garcia Road. It would just ruin our neighborhood. We're all very close neighbors. We've all been there for a really long time. We have new people. We welcome new people into the neighborhood all the time. But we are a very close-knit group.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. And next up, we'll have Josh Sniden, followed by Kevin Sheridan and Catherine Sheridan.
And Chair Lewis, I just wanted to mention that, if there's questions more for staff, I'm more than happy to answer them if you would permit me the time. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Hi, Josh Snyder, by the way. I live at 1014 San Diego Road. I've lived there since 1979 with my parents. And I guess, first of all, I don't like the design of the house. I don't feel it fits with the neighborhood. I know the one you're talking about on the corner of Garcia and Milpas. That's, I think, one of the few modern houses there. And I just think our neighborhood has a different character. I don't think it fits. I'm also, the garage that you mentioned and pool cabana will be built in the back, which is near the property line for our house. On these drawings, there's no height. There's not a lot of information on it, and I don't know how this process works, if that's added later or not. But it makes me nervous seeing something going to be built when it doesn't list how high it is, doesn't list how many stories, has basically no design features for that. So that's a concern of mine. And then also I was concerned on is it 0, I guess, where it says, does the height or existing proposed building exceed 25 feet? And it says no. But when you go to A19, it shows clearly the new height to be 27 feet high. So I'm a little confused about how that works. And I was hoping just, look into that, make sure all the calculations are correct, if that changes them or not. That's all I have to say.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll have Kevin Sheridan, followed by Catherine Sheridan.
Hello, my name is Kevin Sheridan. I live on the property. I've been there, let me think, in hours it's impressive. It's about 1,000 hours. I've only been there about 40, 50 days. And I have immediate concerns, and I can't stop being the
So you live at what property?
geologist.
What's
It's at 955 Garcia Road.
955,
I have
thank you.
130 feet that I share with this property. So the property right now is full of trees, and it has a parking space that kind of ends right where our little vegetable garden ends. But it's going to be proposed for somehow a second driveway that goes all the way past. And you won't be able to have a driveway and landscaping. So that'll clearly affect the privacy of my backyard. And I'm concerned about that because the privacy is not only just the windows and stuff, the height of the roof seems very compliant. That seems fine. But my concerns are twofold. Number one would be my privacy and my backyard, which I got 130 feet that I'm sharing with this construction project, which seems rather large. Like I said, I'm a geologist, and I'm also very concerned with the construction. My house, built in 1923, sits on rock. When you go in the basement, it's rock. If you try to dig in that backyard, it's going to be rock. That pool is going to be in rock. The second story, which will be below grade, will be in rock. All construction at that will be fierce. It'll be, I've seen grading, I've seen all kinds of trucks and excavators. All of that work will be noisy, will be complicated, will be shaking my property and the whole neighborhood. And that, I ask you, two things then. Please, when you consider this design, consider the property that is next door to the east, my property, consider my privacy, and please consider the construction of this property and how that will affect the neighborhood. It's my understanding the previous owner of that property
Right, thank you.
was an amazing landscaper, and that property was famous
You're at
for
time,
its
sir.
landscaping.
Okay.
In conclusion, I would say what we love about the neighborhood and what we plan to do to our house is pretty much not screw it up and leave it exactly the way it is. And I think the way this house is, I understand the house itself, you would not really want. I get that, and you would want everybody's right and their own property rights to change their house, make it a better house, make it the most livable house. Fantastic. Just do it in a manner that complies with what's already there. It's perfect.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. In fact, whatever job you guys are doing, it's great, because that neighborhood is fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you. Lastly, we'll have Catherine Sheridan.
It is great, isn't it?
I'm his wife. I live next door at 955 Garcia Road. I've only lived there since March 13th. And Kevin and I just love the neighborhood. We love the charmingness of it. And we're very concerned that this small little house next door is going to be this big house. And also, we looked at that house last summer, and it had a little ADU at the bottom, and they're going to make it into a big ADU. And then this cabana idea in the back concerns us because it's not even near the pool. So we're thinking it's probably a plan to eventually be another ADU. Whoever they sell it to can sell it and say, oh, look, you got a cabana back here by the garage, got this long driveway to the back, and it could become another ADU. So we're worried that it's going to be 3 families living there. Also, I'm the one that uses the little vegetable garden right there, and the 2 mature trees there are an orange and a macadamia nut that they're going to have to remove to make a driveway. And they're big and they're beautiful. The macadamia nuts have these flowering branches that come down, and orange trees are beautiful too. And it's going to be just house there. I appreciate that it's going to be a shorter house, but because as it is right now, there is a window that looks right into our master bedroom, and we're enjoying the fact that no one's there, but someone's going to be there. And when those trees are gone, that buffer is not going to be there anymore. So I ask that you consider the good neighbor policies about the placement of the balcony and those windows that we can see easily from laying in our bed. So we have drapes, but I would like just not to have to worry about that so much. And I think that's it.
All right, thank you. Okay, we will move to, oh, sorry, you're going to end.
Thank you. Yeah, we do not have any participants online right now, but I will acknowledge that we received written correspondence from Kevin Sheridan. Now I'll give it back to you.
Okay. I guess it might be worth commenting on 2 things from the public comment first, which would be that one of them had stated that they had emailed the city, but we only received public comment from Kevin Sheridan. Were there other public comments?
I only received written correspondence from Kevin Sheridan.
Oh, I believe so. What the applicant is saying, that there was a previous letter submitted for the last hearing, and that was registered as public comment.
Okay.
We can easily add that to the record
That
for
would be
today.
great. Okay, thank you, staff. And then I think, staff, if you can address comments regarding substantial redevelopment, I think that would be helpful.
Sure. Hold on, I'm writing notes for the So yes, substantial redevelopment. Good job. That's some good research. So yes, that's correct. There are thresholds. So when over 50% of the foundation, 50% of the walls, and or 50% of the roofing system are replaced structurally, that does qualify as substantial redevelopment, and that essentially means the home is a new home. So if the applicant wishes to say we are not building a new home, meaning that they're keeping less than those thresholds, less than 50%, they're keeping that when they're going through their remodel, they will submit with their whole planning case when they officially submit a substantial redevelopment form, and it's a signed affidavit from the applicants and also at the building permit stage that they will not go over those 50% thresholds. So again, For this one-time pre-application consultation, staff have not reviewed this to see if it suffices or meets or qualifies for that yet. When they do officially submit, that is definitely something the applicant will have to prove to us and go through the whole application process. So all I can say is keep an eye on the next submittals, and hopefully, those comments can be addressed through the process. Thank you.
Okay, we will move to questions from the board, and maybe we'll start on this side with Board Member Richards. Any questions?
I guess my first question is, do you have any precedent images for kind of, the stylistic intent of the building or the vertical stone siding that you've seen? It just seems like it's a departure from what's in the neighborhood, even though it's a reference to the stone.
Lisa, will you pull up the elevations? The existing house color is a little bit deeper of a taupe than the off-white that I've proposed. They look very similar in the drawing, so I'm hoping not to create a new, I guess, color palette on the exterior of the house. The masonry panels are there to give it a little bit of interest. I have built other homes that are in the same style, and I can photograph things we've done in the past as a portfolio of inspiration images. So I don't have anything that matches this per se. There are actually other houses in the neighborhood that have a lot of very similar caseless windows, so where we've got the contemporary windows set right into the plaster. I guess for me, a lot of the interest on this particular build is in the back of the house, the part that I think we would be seeing the most, and that's the, Risa, would you show the back elevation? So that elevation really is the one that's important to me. So you can see the grade on the left at street level, and you can actually kind of see the overall elevation change from high to low. So that bottom walkout floor from the back of the house is impressive, but you wouldn't even see it from the front. But for me, it's kind of like a house turned around backwards. What's facing the street is, as it is right now, in my opinion, not attractive at all. And the intent is to give it a little bit more interest and really utilize that backyard and the views out to the ocean.
And then I guess my other question is, and maybe this just hasn't been developed yet, but the garage and pool cabana, that's a new structure, correct?
100%.
Okay. And it would be great to see some elevations and how that relates to the main structure.
The original design, like I said, had a green roof on the top of it, so it was just kind of a blocky building with the green roofs. When we looked down on it, it would be kind of part of the landscape, and unfortunately, I haven't really developed a roof profile for it other than just a flat roof. As the neighbor down below stated, it would be at the bottom of the property, so closest to his uphill property line, and as long as we can get vehicles parked in there and 8-foot plates, I think more than enough. It's not a building I was wanting to create any interest in.
Okay.
Board Member Mosley, any questions?
I have a couple of questions. One related to the stone veneer vertical ones that Board Member Richards mentioned. What was the design intention of locating those? It seems like kind of like it's just in each elevation you have some. What's the reason of locating those?
I'd like to break up a lot of the plain plaster facade. Risa, can you go to the picture of the existing house? You can understand why I don't like the house, to be honest with you. I'm very capable as a contractor to take the house down and rebuild a new home in a totally different style. Lots of impact to the neighborhood, lots of time, more money, et cetera. So again, staying with the existing footprint, but dressing it up a bit. The panels look maybe more impressive in the drawing, but you can see the distances between like the corner of the house and the windows. They're fairly narrow. It was in a way to bring the house maybe into a bit more of a contemporary look. I like the use of stone personally quite a bit. We do quite a bit of masonry and combined in our project, so it's sort of a personal choice.
Can we go back to that elevation? One of the questions that we can leave this to comments is like what was the idea of locating, and the other is like, for example, in your north elevation, there's one to the left of the entry door, which finishes with the head height of the window, and the rest all of them goes to the roof line. So that we can leave it to the comments, but I was curious to know the reasoning.
We did quite a bit of design study with lots of different panel locations, and this was sort of, in a way, I thought the prettiest representation. We have a lot of rendering software in the office, so I'm able to look at the building kind of spun on the bias in a lot of different angles. And I thought when all was said and done with the shadow lines and the landscaping, my background is in horticulture, so I would intend to do more of a kind of a southwest landscape in the front, and a little more architectural with spacing in between the plant material, and then the backyard a little more tropical.
Thank you. Well, I would like to leave this to comments to hear from others. The other question is, like, there are windows, as an example, on the north elevation that when it's transitioning, like the window on the right side of the north elevation, the jamb side, the right side, is exactly on the borderline of the stone transition from plaster to the stone. And I know that this project is like early on, but are you intending to do that? Because it's repeating all around the facades. Is it a detail that you want? It was a design intention?
It is.
Okay.
Having the stone pass by that one vertical window actually looked fine in other iterations that we had put out. So I have quite a few. I mean, at some point I had to kind of work with what presented the best on paper proportion-wise, but we have different iterations of stone wraps on the building.
Okay.
So it's still in design phase, but.
So on page A14, on the main house, I'm seeing still, it's calling out as the green roof. Is that the roof of the balcony?
We need to take that out. We've been told that we can't do green roofs in this neighborhood.
So yeah, that was like why I confused. Okay.
No, sorry.
So that's the part that you're not, like, it was like a design intent, but you're removing. Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
And if we go to the west elevation, what's the, like the, yes, the windows on the upper level, the head height, it's now covered with the overhang. We're not seeing it here, but I saw it somewhere else, like on a rendering or something. It's exactly to the plate height. Is it, or it's lower?
Lower. We'll need some structure
Maybe it was like
in
a
between the two.
rendering. Okay, angle. And how much lower from the, like, do you know?
Oh, I
the
imagine
plaster
that
above it?
we'll probably need a 4x8 at the very least as a header height, so it'd be about 9 to 10 inches when all is said and done.
Okay, I think that was all my questions.
Okay, Board Member Graffiti, any questions?
Just quickly confirming heights on everything. Do you mind going back? I think it was actually really helpful to see the existing roof elevation compared to the proposed. Yeah. It sounds like on the right side, there's about a 2.5-foot increase at the steepest point of the roof. Does that sound familiar? If it's
Yes.
at 27? Okay, so the steepest point is about 2.5 feet higher than the current. And then I'm seeing, I guess it's slanted, so it's gonna vary, but all the way down to about 16 feet at a low point on the left side. When we were talking about encroachment from the street into that setback, can you confirm what the current encroachment is versus if you weren't? Or like how many feet into that?
Yeah, can you go on to the site plan?
That second story has got it at the back, so there's the cut through right there. So it's the entirety of the primary and the closet, and yeah, what do we said 7'4" to 11 foot?
The longer side is, sorry, the longer side is 11 foot, and the shorter side is 7 foot.
Okay, and then part of the existing residence is already
Existing non-conforming.
existing non-conforming and is similar. Okay,
Can you
great.
scroll up to the other floor plan, the first floor?
Yes.
That'll help. So that
Okay.
part is existing.
Okay, that's helpful. And then just last question, just thinking about the garage, did you consider siting it anywhere else? Or can you just walk me through quickly how you thought about where you put the garage?
Well, clearly, we couldn't go in the front yard setback, so I
Yeah.
couldn't go in front of the house because it'd be built entirely in the front yard setback. Okay. So we have basically got the pool permit, and I wanted to be able to have a buffer zone in between the pool and the garage for landscaping. So there was a bit of like an actual yard, interior yard space in between the two structures. So we pulled it off the back property line outside of the setback in order to get a landscape buffer. And, you know, I kind of thought there'd be, fruit trees, a lawn, space in between the bocce court and the garage.
Okay, thank you for that. That brings me to another question. For the fruit trees that were mentioned in public comment, I see existing tree to remain. Can you just speak to that?
Yeah, I don't intend to. There's one cherimoya tree on the east side of the property line that would be in the middle of the driveway. So there's an older cherimoya tree that would come out. But the macadamia, the citrus, there's a handful of trees that are on the east side of the property line, but there was no intent. We've drawn the hatch mark of what is the existing gravel parking as is. I mean, that's basically
Right.
the as-is space. But there
Right.
are trees in that hatch
Right.
mark right now that I'm not intending to cut down or pull out.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with them.
Okay, great.
And,
Just-
and from my perspective, the majority of the views don't look down on their house, at least from this one. They're to the backyard and over the neighbor's roof line, so I wasn't really, the trees actually are a good thing to keep them there for long-term anyway. No need to take them out, I don't believe.
Okay, great. That's all my questions.
Hey, Board Member Sherry?
Yeah, can you go back to the drawings of the garage and the cabana? Because I think I missed that part of the presentation.
On the site plan, we don't have any elevations.
Oh, there aren't any. so
Right,
I
no,
didn't
just
miss
because
it.
this is a pre-app, they haven't designed it yet. Yeah.
And so there's no, and the pool's not built, but there's a permit issued, and we don't have any drawings of what that looks like either.
It's right there.
No,
But no elevations
elevations.
and no materiality for that either.
What is the purpose for the second driveway, the gravel driveway?
At the moment, the house has got 2 curb cuts.
Yeah,
So
if you
there's-
zoom out a little bit or up to see that, so since you're getting rid of the roundabout, because this was one of my questions too, what is the point of keeping that since you're getting rid of the roundabout and now adding a long driveway?
Well, the long driveway itself doesn't provide for any off-street parking. The ADU rules, as written, really encourage kind of walkability, place, I guess, to have a car if you own one. And in our case, there's no off-street parking. The house as is has got the 2 original curb cuts and this sort of wraparound. I wanted to pull out some of that non-permeable surfacing in the front, but just leave that gravel parking area. I was told by transportation that we don't do gravel parking
You're not
areas.
going to be able to do that.
So I'm like, well,
Okay,
whatever.
I have more questions, though.
Doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
So the second driveway, the answer to that question is it's there, and you're thinking about using it for the ADU, parking for the ADU.
Yeah, just single car for the ADU.
And when you said that the lower level was dubiously permitted, what did you mean by that?
Well, it's all combined into one, it's just like one big habitable converted space. But
So the permit, for the lowest level that's going to be the ADU, what is it currently permitted as? That's my question.
in the original home, there's space underneath.
Not the original home, now. Like, what's it legally recognized as now?
I believe half the space is allowable, and then the other half they enclosed when they did that second-story terrace.
Staff, do you know,
No,
is it
that's
just
not answering my
considered
question.
storage? Is it considered?
It's considered part of the house.
I have not reviewed this project, and
Got it.
nobody
Okay.
has, so.
So maybe
Not
Nicole
permitted
can
as a
answer
se-
that.
Yeah, it's not permitted as a second dwelling at this point. It's part of the house.
It's considered understory that was illegally converted to habitable space, and you're going to be proposing to convert that habitable space into legal ADU.
Yeah, though I think it was actually permitted as habitable space.
Oh, it was?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Half of it came with the original house. So in the original, we've got.
I got it. I
Yeah,
got it.
right.
I understand now. When the solar ordinance, where is that on your elevation for your north elevation?
Solar study.
Yeah, we don't
Your
have
solar
that yet.
study. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't actually
the
have
solar
the,
study
we don't
for
have
the-
that yet.
Okay. Because, I mean, we're reviewing something that hasn't had the basics.
It's because it's a pre-app, so they
I
can come in
know,
here for
I know,
whatever,
but I
right?
thought it had
Yeah.
gone through the basic zoning
all.
ordinance, or we
No.
would
Not at all.
not have.
No,
looked
so,
at- been looking at it.
this hasn't been submitted at all, and then for pre-apps, I mean, how our service works is that an applicant can submit one elevation if they wanted to. I mean,
Okay, I
it's
understand.
very
Thank
just
you.
based on design,
Solar. And then the inspiration for the window, the kind of polygon window that's above the roof line, the shed roof over the main level. Do you have an inspiration for that?
Well, I looked at both a rectangular window in that upstairs shower element and this trapezoid shape, and we went back and forth quite a bit. So this is better. I didn't want to overwhelm you guys with all the iterations.
I was just
because
wondering what
not
the
really.
inspiration was.
I'm just
Like-
following the roof lines with the
Okay,
window.
got it.
It's nothing more than that.
Okay, thanks. I think that's it.
Okay. I think my questions were all answered. Let's move to comments. We'll start with Board Member Richards.
Sure. So, I mean, I think the extent of work that's going on is going to be substantial. I don't think you're going to be able to get under 50% currently as I see it. If you are able to, fantastic, but I think that the move of pushing that master bedroom and bathroom out over and into the front yard setback isn't improving the situation at all. And I think that you should potentially look at studying maybe rotating that mass so that it sits back behind the front setback and maybe takes advantage of those views a little bit more. I'm not a huge fan of that stone finish. I think it's out of place and out of character for the neighborhood. And I think that you could, if you're looking to break up the elevation, study maybe stepping the walls and stepping the massing, as opposed to just something that's a painted applied finish almost. I think there should also be, you guys should study some of the sections of this building. I think that a section through the stair, you guys are going to run into some head height issues, just based on how I see the floor plans laying out. So I'd highly recommend you guys kind of look into that stuff. And then, of course, I'd want to see elevations of the cabana and garage, and I think that those should match the character of the house. They shouldn't be a departure and shouldn't necessarily be just an afterthought or a throwaway building. So those are my comments.
Okay, Board Member Moslehy.
I'm going to start with the stone as well. I think now, currently, with the current design, the vertical stone veneer is like the main character of the design. And I know that there were a lot of like iterations and you have studied, but still I'm thinking that it doesn't look like the original character of the stone. I mean, the chimney being stone and being like the way that the original, you're showing on the material palette, like the real character of the stone, but on the veneer with the like the narrow cuts vertical, which is the main character of the house, I find it still not blending with the style of the neighborhood. And even like you mentioned, the Santa Barbara modern style or the contemporary style. And I cannot find a relationship of like why it's located where it is now and why in like, for example, I had this as part of my questions, like why it finishes on the north elevation, just like on one random spot, it's with the head height of the window, and on the others, it just goes up. So like the repeatedness of this and where it happens, I'm not convinced. And related to this comment, the transition, like having the window jambs exactly at the transition to the stone, I think like I would like to see a detail of that and why it's happening at some locations as well. If you go to the west elevation, like scroll down a little bit, I think like there's that like horizontal window on the lower level that ends with that as well. And then as an example, the jamb of this window with the window above, they're not aligned. So I feel when looking at the different elevations, it's like some windows are designed more from the interior side and haven't thought through from the exterior. And the other example here on the west elevation is like that window which is under that the geometry that has popped out. I'm seeing the head height of it like exactly at the plate height of that. I'm not sure what's happening in the section there. So I think like the windows need to be studied more. One is relationship of the windows with when the material is transitioning, the head heights, and the relationship of the windows to each other from exterior side, not only like just placing them from the interior needs. And I'm sure that will be part of the progress of the design. The other question I have, if we can see a site plan, which is a common question, I'm seeing that the roof layout, like we see the new proposed roof, it's kind of has angles. Yes. So if you zoom out a little bit, that we can see the whole thing. So it has angles on the front yard and it has angled for the backyard, and like the plan underneath, it's not like anything related to that, and it's just like I was wondering if this angle is like just a arbitrary angle or it's leading from somewhere else.
It's functional in the back where it overlaps the majority of the outdoor terrace spaces.
Can we go to that one? Yes, the one that shows the plan. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I was curious, what's the relationship of this? Like it's covering part, does not cover the other. Is there any specific reason for that angle and positioning the layout of the roof?
It was a preferred design strategy. I think it makes the light in the house. It'll make it interesting. There's a lot of different movement of the sun, and I think having just boring right angles lining up with the exterior of the house might not do it.
The reason I'm bringing this up is like I'm wondering if that sharp angle when you're standing in like the neighbor's property with the head height, or like the height of that point, it's the highest point of the, I think, roof.
It would be the lowest point.
It will be the lowest. How would it be affecting, if it was like aligned with a balcony or another angle, will that help any views in the neighborhood or not?
I wouldn't think it would affect any of the neighbors' views.
I think that was all my comments for now, and I
Board
would like to hear from others.
Moderator Feide.
Okay, great. I know, sorry, a lot of comments, so I don't want to keep saying the same things. I think I agree with a lot of what's been said, but I I'm excited for the potential of this project. I would agree with the applicants that what's currently there is definitely not the most charming house on the block, so I think that there's a lot that you could do with that. I think that you could make a more contemporary home work, but I agree with my other board members that, you know, considering the way that you're doing the masonry and the palette that you have, and I even had a question about the plaster finish. I don't know if that was what you were proposing or not. And I know this is really early on, but some of those just charm-giving elements, I think you could study more. And, one question I'd have is, because you've done styles of homes like this in the past, I do think it would be helpful to have photos of those moving forward, especially if you're sticking with a similar design, just so we can see, you know, outside of a rendering, how does that stonework look, or that palette, or those roof lines, would be really helpful. So that would be one ask from me.
Okay, Board Member Sherry?
Without getting into a lot of detail about windows and you know, trapezoidal windows and things like that, I think that there's a bigger issue here, and that is this project's asking for a mod and feedback from us on the supportability of a mod in the front yard setback. And right now, I'm not seeing a justification for that. I'm not seeing, and the biggest reason for me is the massing and the way the architectural features and the proposed style, or, you know, unfortunately, in my opinion, lack thereof, it's not pulling together yet. It's just this disjointed windows, the stone, and then the massing being so close to the street is exacerbating the massing. And you know, you've got this neighborhood, and when you do drive up and down, I just did it on Google Maps up and down the street. While the neighborhood can support a second story, and what you're calling a third story, which really is a second story, kind of, it's not really a third story, but although it could be supported, it's going to be tricky, because this is a challenging project on how you do that, and whether or not what you're doing is supportable from a front yard standpoint, modification standpoint. It's, you know, it's going to be, that's a challenge on this project. And you're not only, like, this is an instance where not only is it big, but and bigger than everything else in the neighborhood, but it's also a completely different style than everything but one house that's around the corner and down kind of more by Milpas. So if we're going to be able to make compatibility findings, which we are going to have to state them, they're long and they're very detailed in what what we're charged with. It's not something to be taken lightly. And so your challenge, I keep saying this, is that it's big and it's not, it's a completely different style. So, and I think that the front yard, or the solar ordinance, is going to possibly change everything. Because if you haven't thought of that, you've got 12 feet to go up at the property line, and then over 30 degrees. And if anything's above that, they're never going to give you a mod for that. So I think that the first thing you should look at is your solar. So might change everything about this project. So.
And sorry, I just wanted to clarify from board members or Vice Chair Sherry's comments, is that I know you're explaining that the board is looking to support the modifications. I just wanted to clarify that the board's purview is over the design of modifications, and that the city staff.
That's what I meant. I meant
Great,
that if
okay.
we're going to be able to make findings in support of the modification, then I don't want to sugarcoat the challenge that he's got
Absolutely.
in front of him. That's what
Absolutely.
I'm trying to point out.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I think that one of the things that we'll include for your comments are things that will be very helpful in coming for a concept review when the time comes. And I think your comparison of your existing roof to the new is very helpful, because I I think one thing that will help you along the way there is the fact that your roof right now is tall, and that in removing your existing roof and having this second story, but I think one of the things Board Member Richards was saying is like, how much can you utilize the size and bulk of what's there, which would mean potentially having your second story more centrally located. I think you can come forward with any arguments of what that may or may not do structurally, or if something is cost prohibitive or things like that later when you come back. But that is typically when we have an additional story. The recommendation from single family in our guidelines is to offset it a little bit so that the massing isn't tall in one area. And I think you have potential there. I don't think it's completely off the books to have a second story, but it's more in how that is done. But I think to Board Member Sherry's point, having supportable documents, I think one of the things that will be important is defining the neighborhood. And in the previous example, the project, the neighborhood wasn't as clearly defined, so there's a broader area. I think yours will need to be the 20 closest houses as typically defined, and I think that with that will help narrow in on what you're looking at, because a lot of the examples that you were showing in your supplemental sheets extend further. But that will help to zone in on materiality and in your kind of defense for the compatibility that we have to make findings for. I think some things that might help with the overall bulk and mass, especially from the rear, which is what you'll see along the hillside, might be utilizing that sandstone in a horizontal capacity that is your lower level, so that visually you see like the two levels above and not so much of that height. I think that if you're proposing these angular roofs, it seems like your software might easily see 3D, and it would be helpful to see that three-dimensionally for the board. I understand why the second driveway is existing and for parking, but it feels like your site will really need a landscape plan in that element, because right now from the front, you're seeing a lot of potential driveway. And so finding ways to soften, I know you already mentioned there's trees in there and things like that, and being able to showcase that, I think could really help. I will say style is not dictated, but I think it's worth really studying what contemporary Santa Barbara is, and finding local examples I think will be beneficial to you, and creating a common language for the building that is then wrapped around. And so if that means that that whatever your windows on one elevation, that whatever language is kind of dictating that it speaks the same language around. And that might be that, okay, every side of it does hit stone. And so if there's a window by stone, there won't be a 2-inch gap. It'll always hit next to it, or something like that, to create that cohesiveness. This may disagree from other people on the board, but I'm not concerned about the height. But I do think the placement and being able to define the mod might be something there. But that's me personally looking at the street elevation, looking at it just being a small element. Any other comments from the board to incorporate into our comments? I've made a long list, and I will make a motion. Okay. Is this a motion, or is this just comments? Since it's, I know, yeah.
Yeah,
It's not even a motion.
so it would be comments.
Okay.
I believe it would be to just continue indefinitely with the following comments is the motion
Okay.
that would be made.
I move to continue indefinitely with the following comments. The board would like to see a neighborhood study using the 20 closest homes in the support from the client for neighborhood compatibility, and for those homes to be defined when they come for conceptual review. In order to have findings to support a front setback modification, we would need more compelling documentation from the applicant. The board is mixed on thoughts regarding the project height and appreciates the comparison to the existing roof structure, and recommends that the additional story fit more centrally located into the residence if possible. The board recommends studying contemporary residences in Santa Barbara and would like to see precedent examples that support the architectural details of the residence. If sandstone is proposed, the board recommends horizontal orientation. The board would like to see the designs and elevations of the garage and cabana, as well as a section through the property that shows the location of the pool and any tall trees or screening elements. The board would like to see a landscape plan and would like to see landscaping introduced into the existing driveway and/or on-property parking, uncovered on-property parking, just to soften the amount of pavers seen from the street. The board recommends studying the exterior window locations and proportions and cohesiveness of when stone is applied and not applied to create a cohesive language in the architecture around the building. If angles are being proposed in the roof, the board would like to see the 3D perspectives highlight those areas. The board recommends having discussions with the neighbors for good neighbor policy regarding privacy and screening if possible.
I'll second the motion, but under discussion, did you want to say anything about the checking the solar ordinance, or is that just a
I
given?
think those will be given
Just a given,
requirements
yeah.
in order to come next time, yeah. Getting it? Okay.
Ready? I'll begin with Board Member Mosley.
Yes.
Board Member Richards.
Yes.
Board Member Graffiti.
Yes.
Vice Chair Sherry.
Yes.
And Chair Lewis.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you all.
Okay, and now we're a little behind. Our last item is, thank you, 575 Bramer Ranch. This is here for project design approval. A proposal to permit 700 square feet of as-built additions and construct 557 square feet of new additions to an existing 4,749 square foot three-story residence and attached 649 square foot three-car garage. The project includes replacement of all windows and doors, exterior material alterations, new pool, and expansion of the existing covered patio and existing deck. The proposed total of 5,508 square feet of development on a 2.5 acre lot is 94% of the maximum guideline Florida lot area ratio. The project qualifies for an exemption from further environmental review under Section 15301, existing facilities of the California Environmental Quality Act guidelines. The project was last heard on April 7th. And a few comments before we start. I know that we've seen you. I think that one of the things that would be helpful in the presentation, since we were all here the last time, would be looking through the minutes, and then anything that would help us in supporting the neighborhood preservation findings, especially in as it relates to the neighborhood, anything that kind of helps us understand how it fits and or how it is screened could be helpful. Any other site comments?
Yeah, I think just staff
Said
wanted.
site, I meant staff.
Yeah, that's all okay. Yeah, I think I just wanted to state that, it's quite unique to have a project return for PDA for a third time. I know that this project has been complex mostly because the massing with as-built work does not lend itself well to new designs on the envelope. It's always a struggle with as-built work, and this is a perfect case of that. And so staff would just like to remind the board that, we're looking for projects that there's a spectrum. There's going to be A+++ projects, and then there's going to be projects that fit the bill. And so this might be one of those projects where, given the context of the neighborhood and given the site conditions and the limitations of what can be changed, especially with the roof heights and how they can't be touched because of zoning issues and things like that, that there are some limitations with what can be changed to bring in a full new complete A+ stylized project. And if staff would just like to advise that if the board is considering another continuance, this is the second to last hearing before we reach the Project Streamlining Act deadline. That the applicant has expressed to me that he might be interested in a denial rather than a continuance. And so if, just to consider that, and that for any project design approval findings, if there are conditions, just to be as specific as you possibly can, so it's really clear when it gets to final approval, what specific elements a single board member or the full board would have to look for. So it's a clear way for me and the applicant as well moving forward. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. All right. So if you can make sure your microphone is on and state your names for the record, and you'll have 15 minutes.
Thank you. David Watkins, project designer.
Eric Sedlar, owner.
So I could start with the photo pages real quick, I think, to kind of back up and give a refresher on context and neighborhood, and then we can get a little bit more specific into certain design elements we've done along the way. I think this is the first board with everybody, though, so if there's any like things I miss and stuff, honestly, you guys ask me, and I'll try to answer those the best I can. Do you want to give a few words first before I jump into it?
Go ahead.
Okay. So this is the end of Braemar Ranch Lane. It's a cul-de-sac. This driveway is a private driveway that leads up to this house, which is the adjacent neighbor to the east right here. It's a two-story kind of contemporary, but contemporary built in the 70s or early 80s, not contemporary by today's standards. The project parcel is over in this area over here, behind all those trees and stuff. This is coming up that driveway, looking towards the project site. So this is looking kind of northwest towards the top of the hill. This is all project parcel here. And then this is the upper area of the project parcel. And then this is the western edge. And then the creek would be down in this little valley, as it's kind of hard to see this little crest here, down this area. This is coming up the actual project driveway to the southeast corner of the house where we're doing the proposed addition coming off this wall here. For the kitchen, we're pushing forward to this line. Originally, we were pushing out, I think, about 3.5 feet further than that. Conceptual meeting, that's what we're proposing, and then given those comments, especially from Board Member Graffiti, I think you said you had visited the site, and that corner right there, even though it's pretty well screened, it appeared heavy, especially with the massing and stuff. So we listened to that comment. I think that was one of the biggest drivers with the subsequent design iterations where we thickened out this column, we moved it over, we added a few more, so this didn't feel like this mass was coming forward on that corner and just kind of hulking over that edge. But you can kind of see it's a one-story, or it appears smaller, and then the majority of the massing is back over here. So it appears kind of one-story-ish on this element, but when you get up here, this is where the second story starts popping up, and then this is basement and garage level. Real quick, I will touch on this front facade was the majority of the as-built work that was done back before Eric bought the property. This is probably done around the same time as the house was permitted. Yeah. Based on the plaster and the detailing and stuff, it looked like it was actually just done all at once, and they pushed forward by one whole bay about 3 feet and then filled out that flat wall line, so there's no articulation here like there should have been. This central massing right here is supposed to be more of a bay window effect. That's mimicking this right here, but it was going up 2-story elements. They just pulled out to that front wall and then filled it in adjacent. And that's what created this 45 right here on this corner and the opposite corner, which was never supposed to be there. This is looking north, up, you walk up these steps, and then you can see the lawn. This is the house to the left here, and then to the right is east. The upper neighbor, that's about 45 feet plus to the top of the project parcel, and then the neighbors are beyond that. Even at the top there, I can't see where they are. This is that same view looking opposite down towards that driveway we were kind of looking at a few minutes ago. Here's all that screening and those palm trees we saw in the background in the first image. Getting a more view looking directly east. That 2-story neighbor is over here. This is within the project parcel looking up again, so you can kind of see how the site terrain and the landscaping and the trees that are already there shield that corner pretty well. This is looking east again. This is the adjacent neighbor. It's 2-story. This shows the screening and the trees that are already there right now. There's a lot of glass. It's, I don't know if you can see it, but it's big fixed angular pattern glazing, no mullions, just full panel glass. This is the project parcel looking down below up the area, probably the southwest corner where the proposed pool is going to be, so you can see the vegetation that's already there right now, these trees. This is a uke that was cut down last year because of fire issues and stuff, and so fire wanted to just do some clearing, so that one's gone, which is good because it's too close to the house anyways. This is looking down at the existing vegetation that's going to be just below that western edge of the retaining walls for the pool. So you can kind of see how this is already overgrown pretty well. This is the creek beyond there. And then you can see the neighbors down in the distance behind all the existing vegetation. Looking more west again, you can see some roof lines of some houses down below, but it's pretty well screened, and then there's a creek down below. This is the western elevation where there's an existing as-built retaining wall that was built probably again by the 80s. And this area was will be proposed to be infilled with that new bedroom that's going to flesh out with this wall right here. This is the west elevation. So you can see this was as-built, this part of the bedroom. These columns were correctly located, but they were built too small. These are about 10-inch columns. They were supposed to be about 2 feet on the original as-built plan, and we can see that in the elevations how this, along with the deck design and perimeter detailing, all that got scrapped for some reason. There was supposed to be a lot more elaborate trim system that would have made this look a lot nicer than what it came out to be. This is looking north of the proposed pool area, get a sense of vegetation. This tree will be existing to remain. North elevation, we're just doing door and window treatments, taking all these out like for like, and then removing this trim. It's not timber. I think that came up as a comment last time by one of the board members, but it's actually just trim. It's not actual timber beam framing. And that's one of the main drivers why we're stripping is because the ends are all rotting out, and when you look up close, it's pretty strongly filled with mold. This is the east elevation. We're not doing anything here except at this bay window that's currently there right now. This roof line is pretty long and flat, and given I recognize that this is a defining element for this elevation, this is a really big mass. Honestly, I would never design something like that in these days with such a flat roof line without more articulation. So one of our proposed elements is we're actually rebuilding this pretty close to what's here. We're actually shifting over about 2 feet, but then we're punching up through that roof line with a roof element to match this. And that's the extent of what we're doing on the east elevation. Real quick, I guess this is actually a good image of the corbels too that are there. This corbel is attached to a post right now, and then there's corbels that support some of these other members on the south and then on the north because of that 30-inch roof projectant that's happening. We still have to keep these roof lines because of the zoning ordinance. This front corner here, about just this little area right here, peaks past the 35-foot height limit, so we can't touch anything. First time we came to the board, we were actually showing us clipping this off and making this a flat gable eave that was going to tie in better with our proposed elements. We can't even do that, even though it's like less than a foot of projection, that's still seen as a roof alteration versus design detail, so we had to unfortunately scrap that along the design process. We are going to keep that extension though at 30 inches, and then these kickers that are happening at these corbels, we're going to preserve them, but we're going to take out that curve that's right there and make them just a straight, clean 45 without any bevel like that. This is looking up now from the very bottom of Braemar where it meets the cross street, and so you can kind of see this. This is a neighborhood in transition, so some of these homes are more contemporary now as they've been remodeled throughout the years. Plaster, full-height glass, no mullions, very clean lines, metal roofing on some instances, metal awning, blade awnings that pop out, flat roof projection here, wood siding. This is across the street on the eastern edge. This is Spanish style. This is on the west, metal roofing, plaster, wood eaves, one story. This is also on the west. This is more contemporary. This is wood siding, again, angular windows, full-height panes, no mullion breakups. This is very similar to the house that's directly east to the project parcel as well, except that's a two-story. This one's contemporary. You can't really see from the image because the house is set pretty far back, but it's a contemporary home. Gates block it from the streets. You can't really see very much. Same with this guy that's behind us, covered vegetation. This is looking east, kind of towards the top of the driveway, so you can see, corbels similar to kind of the design we have, full plaster, full height, unbroken glazing, and then this house right here actually has the horizontal metal railing that we're kind of mimicking in our design as well. There's, I think, 2 houses on that block that have it. Here's a close-up view of that right there. And then here's a close-up view of that house in the background with plaster and so forth, and then heavy tile roof. This is that same house parcel compound. This is the west, the most visible street elevation right here of this part of the house, and just flat facade, plaster. Or sorry, wood siding, horizontal wood siding. Looking up beyond, this is a two-story house up on the hill beyond there. Plaster, kind of more Mediterranean style. The railings though were more horizontal wood. It looked like more contemporary, so it's kind of a mixed contemporary design. Full height glass up here as well. West, 515 Braemar, more traditional. California Ranch, kind of S-tile, plaster, full height glass, again, no breakups. And then this is looking back up toward the driveway. Here's the house to the right of us, and then here's that 2-story house beyond that's just directly east of the project parcel. And that's a close-up view right there. We've seen these photos. One photo that I think you guys didn't see last time, this is directly southwest of us, down below. Not in Braemar, it's further along, but we can see the roof lines. It's more contemporary. It's all plaster. Again, full height glazing with French doors, no mullions. Black, I think, concrete tile roof. And so that's a pretty similar example, I think, what we're trying to mimic. So there's the photos, and would you like me to maybe go back to the last motion? Yeah. Okay. I think it's this combined, yes. So I combined these just so we can, if you guys want to go back to the previous motions and conversations, we can look at those. But for us, I think off the first hearing, there was a lot of conversations about looking at style and stuff and detailing, and I think based on budget considerations and just the amount of detail that would have kind of worked for that French Normandy style, that was a lot to push for, especially with the way the massing is now. One thing we did take was that the massing was generally supportable, but the tower element needed more cohesiveness. So we looked at that and really refined the roof lines for that bay that bay window and the entry element we removed after those comments. And so the last round was more specific to, is this it? Yes.
I'm sorry, can we just look at the minutes from the last meeting?
Yeah, this
That's
is
where we're getting
October
to right now.
7th. This is like way back, yeah.
This is April 7th.
Yeah, it's that
This is the
last
motion.
sheet.
Sheet,
It's this
yeah.
one. So proposed color of the retaining wall was acceptable as we proposed. We proposed our detailing colors, materials off the first PDA, and I think all those were generally acceptable as well. Study the proportions of the breakups and the 4 elevations. That one I struggled with. Honestly, we're just doing mostly door and windows on 3 of the elevations, or north and east especially. The south and west are getting the most work. And given the house with the existing terrain and the fact that 2 elevations are 2-story, they appear 3 sometimes, the other 2 appear 1-story, 2-story. It does resemble, very different massings depending on which elevation you're looking at, but that's what we inherited. I think I kind of touched this right now. So these were kind of the intent of the comments. One thing we did do from the last iteration to this one is, you saw these already with the photos, and I can touch on those if you guys have any questions. I added this just to kind of help break down a little bit more succinctly with photos, kind of big item tickets, like we're taking off the trim here in all these instances, so we can see that that trim, not the timber, is actually being removed because of rot. The detailing elements we're trying to, fix here on this perimeter because of the fact that it was just done plaster and not trimmed out. This north elevation, we're keeping the window sizings exactly as they are. We're just replacing the windows like for like with different mullion patterns. East, we're just taking off the trim here. We're not affecting this in any way. We're taking off the trim around these windows, replacing them, and then, adjusting this bay element here. And then on the proposed, on the south elevation, we adjusted, and the west, we adjusted that guardrail deck. So it resembles more, I think, the original intent of the project that never got built out. We like the columns. They, originally we were trying to mimic these thicker columns that were supposed to be built out that way and carry them up so they can act as breakups for this railing system that never got built, but we're gonna stop them short now. And then this is all as-built here. So this is originally how the house was supposed to be built. Pretty similar on this elevation, corbels and everything are all consistent. It's the south elevation where it got messy. One of the last comments too, I think, was about glazing, that you felt the glazing was too much. We did a calculation, so what was permitted was supposed to be 75% of the south wall's glazing. What was built was about 50%, and then our new proposed glazing is coming in at 60% glazing, so we're a reduction of what was actually permitted. Glazing over here is exactly how it was, so there's no change in that on the west. No change on the east, except for this bay window element here where the glass is going to be a little taller.
We have about 1 minute left. Would you mind focusing on the south elevation?
And then here's the railing system that we altered. So we stopped the columns short. There's the as-built. And then here's the proposed. So we're going to build out this trim along the perimeter here with a 2x12 and 2x8. These will be 8 by 8 post, spread out. There'll be fiber cement with wood caps.
Did you want us to go back to the other?
This is the one.
No, this is the south.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is one alteration that we did the most changes on from the last time, so that is more consistent with what was there before. It is tricky because it's a split level, so we pulled this landing back and pulled it tighter to the kitchen here, and then kept this more horizontal to kind of mimic that. And so that is the biggest element of change that we did last time was here. This window got pulled up between 1 and 2 PDA because of the comment about matching that verticality that's kind of happening with a lot of those windows on the second story. We did a calc to kind of analyze what that south glazing is looking like, and that is the extent of what our work has really been focused on, and then the photos for context.
Okay, thank you. We'll move to public comment.
Thank you, Chair Lewis. This time, I do not have any in-person speaker slips. We do not have any participants online, and we did not receive any written correspondence for this item, so I'll give it back to you.
Okay, thanks. We will move to questions from the board. Board Member Richards, do you want to start us?
No, no questions.
Okay. Board Member Mosley?
Do you have, like, per our comments, minutes last time, like inspiration images of, like, the style of architecture similar? Do you have that?
There's no specific inspirations for a house like this. I mean, it was built as a California contemporary attempt at Swiss chateau-ish, but then it didn't get built out that way.
And there's nothing else in the neighborhood that looks anything like it at all.
Yeah, and so the closest are the adjacent neighbors that have very contemporary profiles with windows and glazing, materials, plaster, just like them. We're doing Tesla solar panels versus their concrete tiles that we're doing, but otherwise, it's pretty consistent with a lot of those two-story homes in the neighborhood.
Okay, that was my only question.
Okay. Board Member Graffitti?
Yeah, so it's tough because it feels like you didn't necessarily yeah, this is a question. I guess my question is then, as we asked for architectural style and inspiration photos, did you find any inspiration photos of your architectural style anywhere, not just in the immediate neighborhood?
In the immediate neighborhood, that was the only spots. I mean, there's examples I've seen.
So just
There's
anywhere.
In
Not-
town over on the eastern area, in the eastern part of town, and then up off High Ridge, actually, a project I'm doing on up there has a couple.
Okay, so can we go to those photos?
I wouldn't know them off the top of my head, the addresses, but off, let's see, when you're going up Mission
Okay.
Ridge, there's a house. I
Can we go
drive
back
by.
to the minutes?
Sure. Which, the most recent ones or the
Yes,
previous?
we just want to focus on the most recent.
Actually, not, it's these guys.
Okay.
There.
Okay, so I think when I'm just asking number 4, our comment number 4,
Yeah, one
Okay,
thing I'll mention
so-
is it was a thing that would be helpful, but not a requirement
Okay,
for us
got
to
it.
see.
Okay. And then what do you call this architectural style?
I would just call it California Contemporary. It's the closest you can match it to because of the massing we have.
Okay.
And the plaster, it's just like the house to the west of us.
Okay, thank you.
Board Member Sherry?
Yeah, can we see the newest proposal versus the last proposal that we saw? The two
For the south elevation.
south elevations, side by side, like, based on the minutes.
Well, this is latest. And then this one looks like this guy. Yeah, thanks. Okay, bear with me, guys.
And can you point out the changes that you made to the south elevation?
There we go. So these columns on, just real quick here, is new.
If you don't mind, do you think it's possible to do a side-by-side
Let me see.
with the PDFs?
You can try, yeah. Let's see if we do that.
If
Does that
you
work?
Yeah, but
Okay.
if you separate out the tabs, well, that's fine.
Yeah, I don't know, it's fine to toggle back, but just,
Okay, so here's the last iteration. So these columns were coming up.
And if you leave that there, the board can look at my.
So what I did before is I actually set these columns forward about 2 inches so that the horizontal trim would get broken up by these vertical elements. And those are about 2'2" square. Those were closer to the module of what the columns were supposed to be built as. And so we pulled those up, and then this right here is because of the resolution of that step and plane right there. So we eliminated all these columns
so go back, just
and then
toggle back
just did
to.
it here.
Oh,
So we stop it short, and then the trim runs proud around the perimeter.
okay, you made that
These
change,
posts.
and then,
So Board Member Sherry, if you want to look at my screen, this is the proposed. And then on his screen, he has the previous. No, stay on that one,
Okay.
please. And so I'll call out some of the other things that I noticed that you did in order to enhance this elevation was to create a more consistent, stay on this one, we can see the other, more consistent. This is the latest. Is more consistent divisions of the mullions, so that what we had looked at previously, each kind of window bay had its own arrangement. But now on the proposed that the board can see on my screen and mostly his screen, it's not up here, it's just here. We're looking at it, is that now there's a consistent kind of rhythm of having a center panel for each window and then having somewhat of a consistent height division. Is that
Yes.
correct?
I forgot
And-
on the
okay.
south, on the living
On the
room,
south
and at the west
elevation.
as well, the new
Got it.
pop out.
Okay, okay.
And then we also messed with the window glazing at window D, which is at the kitchen. With that patterning, we pushed those vertical mullions out a
the
little bit to help
side,
that
yeah.
balancing act.
Okay. Okay, sorry, back to questions if there.
it's okay, that's it, thank you.
Okay. So if you will go to your proposed south elevation, and zoom in on the proposed, is there, so above the door on the left side, you have kind of a thicker mullion above. Yeah. And then your vertical ones, it looks like on your two side windows, those might match in profile, but your middle ones are a different profile, is that correct?
Right.
Okay.
These verticals are like 2 5/8 thicker to kind of help read that breakup a little bit more. And then we also did that on these windows too, because that was what the existing window style was on those two south windows. They had kind of this, they resembled more like a 3-panel system, even though it was one window unit with a thicker vertical breakup. So I tried to mimic that here between the doors and the side lights, here and here, there and there, and then also on that west elevation. And then it didn't look great with a thinner mullion going vertical right there, so we added that vertical, and that seems to work better. And then we added that horizontal thinner mullions coming across there with that patterning.
Okay. Any? No, I'll save it. Okay.
I had one more
more
question,
question,
sorry, I
okay.
forgot to ask. You mentioned that when you were talking about the sketch, the old sketch, you said it was the original as-built. What did you mean by that?
The house, I don't know if I showed a plan. The house was supposed to be built, I'll go to A200 actually. There you go.
Yeah, you were talking about that, and you said this is the original as-built.
Original permitted, sorry.
No, you said original as-built.
He
I'm
may
trying
have
to
said that. He meant
meant permitted.
permitted.
Yeah,
Original permitted, okay, but was it ever built this way?
No.
No, but the way it looks like out there, I don't think there was ever two sequences. I think they just built it all at once. And this projection here, how it's a bay window, they came out to this southernmost wall line.
I just needed my memory refreshed,
yeah.
thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Do you have a detail of that wrought iron railing that's wrapping?
Sure. This is proposed. Here we go. This is the railing, the metal itself, the profile. So a thicker top bar and bottom bar, and then thinner ones in the intermediates. And then like a 1-inch top and 1-inch bottom. And then here's a profile of a section cut, basically, of that edge condition. I'll go in right here. So this is kind of mimicking what was supposed to be built out originally, where they had a trim board built out. They had a curb. It was taller, though. And they mitigated that change in plane by making it look like it was a bench, and then the trim was set at a higher proportion. And so that made it look like there was only kind of one level that was just really thick versus the split levels that end up getting built out. So we're going to have built this up with the curb here, get the trim back along the facade, and then there'll be a post that's going to be, we were trying to avoid wood a lot, so it'll just be pressure treated and then wrapped with like a poly ash, so it will hold up for the wet, the wet climate over there. And then a wood top cap that'll be painted to match the trim.
Okay. Any other questions before we move to comments? No. Okay. For comments, I'd like the board to focus on either reasons to deny, or if approved, anything that you would want to see approved with conditions. I think that it doesn't make sense to keep continuing the project, so I think it makes sense to kind of lean one way or the other, unless you feel strongly about continuing the project, in which case I'd like to hear. To the applicant, I really appreciate going back through the site photos. I think it's really helpful context to remind us that it's mostly screened. And while there's a big part of the board that's focused on views from the public up into these hillsides and Rivieras, it's also taking into some account of what's that distance from there and how much can you actually see from there. One of our concerns before was the amount of large glazing at a distance, and I think that you've shown other residences that have that large scale, though I really appreciate having a consistent mullion now across. I think you could still add a few more, but that's my preference and not something that I think will be a requirement. One of the things for our board, we have these list of findings, and I think some of them can, in my opinion, be noted with how much this is scenic and not seen, and something to kind of keep in mind of what's the ideal versus understanding that this is an existing condition and wanting to make use of the existing residence as much as possible without tearing it all down and creating a uniform new style. Those are my comments. Board Member Richards, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that it's a pretty well screened, not kind of in your face property. So I don't think that the impact of anything is going to be terribly concerning to our community. I do appreciate all the effort that you guys put into this and the improvements that were made. I think they look really good. I would make the comment, though, that you might study that metal railing. It just, the spans of those seem like you're going to step on it and it's going to bend. So just, that's a very minor comment, but.
Okay, Board Member Moslehy.
I think as well, looking at the context images, I think the impact of it to the different angles from the streets and the neighborhood is minor, and it's morely personal design decisions that will impact the owner. But as a board, that we want consistency in design and want to make better decisions. There are a couple of things that I would like to mention. And if you go to the original drawings of the house, which is A200 sheet, I appreciate all the efforts that was done, studying all the windows, all the iterations and like breaking it up. I still, when I look at this, which was never built, I see a hierarchy of patterns, which starts with the grids, which is all over the different facades. It's the main character of the house is the grid lines. And then all the other details are vertical, starting from the railing, the garage door, and even like the detail at the chimney, like the whatever is the detail below that. And then only the pattern that we're seeing in this sketch is like the roof, which is like the horizontality of the geometry of that. So there was like an original design intention of like grid, vertical lines, and the big roof. And I think like you got really close. I know that there's no inspiration images that we're looking at of like the style of architecture, but you got really closer to like with the breakup of the windows and the proportions. But I think there are a couple of items. One is the railing, which I feel doesn't match the whatever style of the house is now, the horizontal metal railing. It's more contemporary to like the whole house. It's just still to me looks like a big cottage chateau kind of style still. So I think that's like it feels like it's built in another era if we add like that metal, more contemporary railing. And the garage door still like, it's just like, it feels like the house is there and we just like added to garage door. And all of these comments doesn't affect the views, context views that we're seeing from the streets, but it's just like, as a board, we want a more consistent style, so that's why I brought it up. And I think that's my whole comment.
Board Member Graffiti.
Wasn't sure, again, what you wanted us to add on to.
I would like to know if like, what would be a condition of approval versus like a like to have recommendation versus a denial.
Okay. I'm going to leave the conditions to the other board members. I think there were some good improvements made. Like other board members have said, it's very screened, and so I'm reading through all of our findings, and I think I could find a way to approve this project, but I think some of the findings we may want to elaborate on why we could make those findings, especially when we think about consistency and appearance and in context to the neighborhood. Just given our previous comments, I think for future, it would be helpful to have photos, especially if there are other houses that exist that can play off of this style. It would have been really great to have those to see today, since it was one of our comments from a previous meeting, and it just makes our job easier to make the findings. I still think, like I said, that we could make that it's acceptable, but yeah, that's a challenge, and we didn't spend a lot of time in the presentation on the actual changes made. But I'm glad that we got to those in our questions.
Board Member Sherry?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with Board Member Graffiti that I wish that more time was spent on the presentation by the applicant to give us a reason to support this project and address the minutes. And I don't feel like any of the the 2 through 4 minutes were addressed, really. I'm just at a loss. I really want to move this project on. And I wish the applicant could have spent more time explaining what specifically was done with the south elevation, because after the last 2 times we've seen it, and I think we saw it once before when I wasn't even here, it's always been about this elevation. And I just, I can't support the, unfortunately, I can't support the contrast between the contemporary elements and the more traditional elements that are left. There's like a lack of identity. I think there's a solution in here. I don't think it's been studied well enough, and I don't think it's been explained or brought to this board, especially after the minutes that were specifically written to justify us approving it. I just don't think that, I just don't think it's there. So I can't support it in this state.
For Board Member Mosley, you had comments about the railing. Is that a condition that you would prefer to make as a part of the approval, to see a more traditional style railing, or is there something specific?
The issue with that is, like, this was one of the items that now Vice Sherry mentioned, that there are components still remaining that doesn't like, it's not cohesive with the style of the architecture. So I don't know if that can be like a condition, because we're not going to see it ever. Like, we're not going to see
We'll
that.
see it at final.
Final.
Yeah, so this is PDA, so when they come back for final, they would have to match what was approved at PDA.
Yeah, and I just would like to clarify, if we're speaking about conditions, is that for final approval, you know, in the motion, we can't have study this, study that.
No, it would
but
be
it would be very
with-
specific
yes,
to
exactly.
vertical, horizontal, X, Y, black
Mm-hmm.
and white. Just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Yeah, I think like it can be conditioned for the components that are
What
not.
would you want to see?
Yes, railing, the garage doors, and.
The problem is we'd have to give a very specific what we want, not just a so I'm curious what you'd want to see.
I think it's, one of them is railing, like the.
To match what?
Are we gonna see it we're gonna see it in the final, so I don't know what, I'm not gonna design for them, but I don't
But a
think
vertical
this cannot be approved with the whole house design or what they have, there are items like garage doors and railing is specific to the south elevation.
Can you be more, so if it were to say a vertical metal railing?
Yes,
Or just a vertical
I
railing?
think being vertical is better, but I cannot detail it for them, so.
Fair, okay.
You know.
But for the garage,
I don't think it matches the character of the house, and again, I
the
can't.
materiality or the divisions?
Everything about it.
I know,
So
and that's
the thing.
okay.
I can't
Okay.
design it, but I
So
think
I'm
the
going to make a
component-
motion, and then we'll see if it passes or doesn't, and then someone else can make a motion, and we'll see what happens with that. So I move to approve this project for project design approval with the following comments. With the condition that the railing either have more vertical divisions between it and thinner subrails, or vertical railing. That's my motion. Okay, and my neighborhood preservation findings are that the proposed development is consistent with the scenic character of the city and will enhance the appearance of the neighborhood because it is significantly screened from view, and the elements that are visible from the public have divided mullions at the windows. that the proposed development is compatible with the neighborhood and its size, bulk, and scale is appropriate to the site and neighborhood. The small addition is minimal in its change to the bulk of the residence. The proposed buildings and structures are designed with quality architectural details. The proposed materials and colors maintain the natural appearance of the ridgeline or hillside. The property is significantly screened, and the architectural details are consistent with the quality of the architecture in the surrounding residences. No trees are proposed to be removed. The public health, safety, and welfare are appropriately protected. The project generally complies with good neighbor guidelines regarding privacy, landscaping, noise, and lighting. The development, including proposed structures and grading, preserves significant public scenic views of and from the hillside. The development, including proposed structures and grading, is appropriate to the site, is designed. There's no changes to the grading, say there. The development maintains a scale and form that blends with the hillside by minimizing the visual appearance of structures and the overall height of the structures. The height and roof have not changed. And the amount of residents seen on the hillside is minimal. My motion. Do I have a second?
I will second that.
We'll take a roll call.
Thank you, Chair Lewis. I'll begin with Board Member Mosley.
Yes.
Board Member Richards.
Yes.
Board Member Graffiti.
Yes.
Vice Chair Sherry.
No.
And Chair Lewis.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And I just wanted to announce for the applicant that
Sebastian,
yes.
I should get her reasoning why.
Oh, yes. Can we have a reasoning in the record for your no, Vice Chair Sherry?
Design compatibility.
Great, thank you.
Architectural style inconsistent. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for the reminder. And just want to announce the appeal process. So you have 10 days to appeal this decision made here today. If we don't hear anything, we look forward to seeing you for final approval. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. With that, the May 5th meeting has ended.